All right. Hey, welcome everybody to the Mother's Justice Show here on 11:50 a.m. KKNW. My name is Chukundi Salisbury, and I'm filling in for the Reverend Harriet Walden on today's show. And I usually fill in from time to time representing Black Legacy Homeowners. However, today I am actually taking over some of the things. Then we'll be talking about police accountability, public safety, and other community events and the like, right? And so that's exciting. There's a lot of exciting things going on. Well, not just exciting, but also troubling things that have been happening in our community here locally in Seattle, Washington, around police accountability. So, yeah, let's get right into it. Again, my name is Shikundi Salisbury Sr. And yeah, make sure you guys follow us on Instagram at M Mothers for Police Accountability Seattle. So that's MFPA on Instagram as well as Twitter, and then follow our Facebook page at Mothers for Police Accountability. So that being said, let's get right into some news. Disturbingly, and since we've had the last show about focusing on police accountability, there has been several officer involved shootings in the Seattle area. And of course, those things bring us consternation. And we like to kind of highlight those things as well. So there's been some good news, and of course, there's been some bad news, right? And let's go ahead and start with the bad news. Recently there's been several officer involved shootings in the last month and few months here. Most recently, there was a officer involved shooting at June 20th, and a person, um, had barricaded himself into an apartment, and an officer returned fire, and the suspect was later found deceased by the SWAT team. And so obviously these are where the SPD detectives are continuing to the force investigation team is continuing to investigate this incident. But again, one of the incidents or the type of incident again that Reverend Walden and others before us worked on around crisis prevention. Also, there was an officer involved shooting on May 30th in the Belltown neighborhood, and where a suspect allegedly pointed a gun at an officer, and uh, um, the suspect was pointed a gun at an officer, and the officer fired at a suspect during a chase. Now, he didn't hit the suspect, but again, this is also troubling to folks that follow police accountability and use of force. The fact that we had an officer chasing someone and shooting at them in Belltown, of course, is troubling. So these things are happening and continue to happen, and Mothers for Police Accountability will continue to watch and inform and respond when we hear about use of force by SPD and other law enforcement agencies, especially Officer OIS, which means Officer Involved Shootings. The other one that's happened, I think, since Reverend Walden was on the show, this was back in March. That's actually some quite time ago, but um, this one is of note because an officer shot and killed a man with a knife who had entered the police parking lot and reportedly failed to, de-escalate and drop the knife. And the officer shot this man. And of course, this is something that was worked on by Reverend Walden and others, the crisis intervention team. We know that there's individuals that do want to have death by police, and we want to avoid those incidents at all cost. However, that being said, it was the first fatal SPD officer involved shooting in 23 months. And so, yeah, as a reminder, folks can SPD, it hasn't been updated in quite some time. I think 2022 is the last year, but as the Seattle Police Department does maintain an officer involved shooting dashboard. And, we'll post a link to that data on our Facebook for folks that are looking for it. But if you have your phone there, you're just interested in knowing, officer involved shootings and the results, the dashboard speaks to how many total shootings there were uh, in officer involved shootings, as well as whether they were fatal and non-fatal. So that's also a good resource, especially when we know that folks talk about police accountability, and oftentimes we speak from feelings and not facts, right? And so it's important to also have the data, especially when good data does exist. So, yeah, so those are some of the officer involved shootings. Not a good look. And we just want to make sure that we highlight those and stay on top of that. The next thing I want to talk about around police news in Seattle here is that just the other day, in fact, what was that, Wednesday, Chief Sean F. Barnes was sworn in at the Northwest African American Museum. And was great, and it was a great event. I was there, and Chief Barnes. If you haven't met or heard about the chief, I encourage you to look him up. His name is Chief Sean F. Barnes, and he is a native of North Carolina, of course, which is near and dear to our heart, and because he also attended Elizabeth City State University. Now, the chief was sworn in, and this was, of course, the mayor was there and others in community. And I would just say, way, especially um, uh, the chief member of Kappa Alpha Psi, and the brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi were there in their red jackets representing that divine institution. And so that was a great look. His wife was the one that really introduced him before he took the oath of office. And now, while we, as an organization, Mothers for Police Accountability, we are interested in accountability all the way on all fronts. And so we welcome the new chief, of course, with a clean slate, and we're hoping that he can come and work on the culture here in Seattle Police Department. One of the things he talked about, and that we are hoping to work closely with him, and most certainly we'll be watching, is that he has a focus on community policing and really getting officers and community together to help solve and address public safety. So, yeah, welcome to Chief Sean F. Barnes. I encourage everyone to look him up. He is a very interesting person. And of course, his shout out to his chief of staff, Alex. So yeah, I would just say that many in the police accountability community and the Black community are hopeful that we can have a culture shift with some of the work here, uh, SPD. That being said, the other thing that happened this past week is that the city of Seattle has again requested to take itself off of the Justice Department oversight, the dissent decree. And so the word is still out on that. We'll have some updates probably next week on next week's show around the dissent decree, and we'll follow up with that. For the break, news is we want to remember Sandra Bland. All right, Sandra Bland should still be here with us, and she is not. and that's a problem. Uh, Sandra Bland was found hanging in her jail cell on July 13th, 2015. And it's amazing that this was years and a day ago that Sandra Annette, say her name, Sandra Annette, was found hanged in her jail cell after being arrested from a so-called routine traffic stop. Of course, the official word is that it was a, suicide, and most certainly we protested, but we want to continue to hold these names and say these names and uplift these names and keep them with us as we move forward around police accountability. We cannot utilize and continue to be desensitized around the folks who have been murdered in police custody. So yeah, remembering Sandra Annette Bland. Say her name one more time. Sandra Annette Bland. And so moving forward on the show, at least when I'm here, we most certainly will remember those who have been victims of police violence or the alleged victims of police violence, which were a suicide, uh, and was still like it wasn't. So again, shout out to in remembrance of Sandra and Glenn. Like for us to cover somebody else or to speak on it, feel free to send us a message on our Facebook page at Mothers for Police Accountability. So that being said, we're going to take a break for the pause for the cause, and we'll be right back. This is the Mothers Justice Show being hosted by Chukundi Salisbury Sr. Be right back.
The Mother's Justice Show is brought to you by H.G. Walden and the Virtues Healing Circles. Join us for Wisdom and Wellness with Reverend Walden, a monthly virtual and in-person healing circle that focuses on community healing and growth. Learn more at virtueshealing.com. That's virtueshealing.com. Also, be sure to join our healing group on Facebook. Again, visit us at virtueshealing.com today.
Market Street Shoes is happy to sponsor the Mother's Justice Show in honor of our mother, Jackie Higgins Rosebrook, who spent her life fighting for social justice, and also in honor of all mothers who fight for social justice. Market Street Shoes, fashionable footwear and apparel for life's everyday adventures, in the heart of Ballard since 2006. Visit marketstreetshoes.com.
All right. Hey, welcome back to the Mother's Justice Show. My name is Chukundi Salisbury, and I'm filling in for the great Reverend Harriet Walden, our illustrious founder of Mothers for Police Accountability here in Seattle, Washington. And you're listening to KKNW 1150 AM. So today's show is one of the things. So we're trying out some new formats with announcements we talked about in the first first quarter of the show. In the bottom of the hour, we're going to have a special guest, Gina Hall from Uplift Northwest, who is working to change lives through job training and programs. But the Uplift is located in Belltown, and we know that Belltown most certainly has some significant impacts around public safety and interactions with SPD. And she recently hosted a forum, and so we're going to check in with her on that. But speaking of forums, the other thing that I wanted to talk about in this segment that I'm really excited about and being a part of is this week. Mark your calendars. Mark your calendars. This week on July 17th, which is Thursday, we've got a community engagement forum on police officers in schools. And this is going to be a great event. It's powered by the Medium newspaper and 100 Black Parents. And for full transparency, I am the founder and executive director at 100 Black Parents. So 100 Black Parents, the Medium newspaper, we're sponsoring this community engagement forum on police officers in schools at Garfield High School, July 17th, from 6 to 8 p.m. Right. And so, the event's really going to focus on how do we, can we in fact work with SPD to bring community officers back into schools, and should we do that? So this will be an open forum specifically to really hear from, hopefully we're going to hear from parents and students and actually individuals in the school. We know that there's been many um, studies. So no matter where you're at on, there's a lot of work on both sides of this issue. I know that in the past on Twitter, I get called anecdotal, right? Because I like to talk specifically about Garfield High School and the officers that over the years have worked at Garfield High School in Seattle, Washington. And I can name them off, like, Officer Stuckey, Officer Benny, and Officer Monique, and the like, right, over the years that worked with those students. However, when you go back up to a nationwide level, 30,000 feet, and you look at all of the data for all schools, most certainly there has been less than stellar results of having police officers in some schools across the country. And I guess the question is, for our event on Thursday, what makes sense for our schools, for our students here in Seattle, Washington, and here specifically at Garfield High School. So yes, if you're a parent of a current student, or you are a student, or you're working in or around the building in the community there, we'd love to have you show up and be a part of this community engagement forum on police officers in schools. And regardless, again, it's going to be open to folks that are on either side of this issue. We want to have all opinions at the table. I would say that the mother's position, or at least my position as a member of Mothers for Police Accountability, is that we can in fact have some officers in schools, but they need to be officers that, in our opinion, love our students and love our community, and really want to be there. And that is a big difference between, being assigned there. I know in the past when we talked about this issue, I talked about it, in depth on X, when it was Twitter, during my campaign. And one of the things that came up is that apparently the way that they do the assignments to schools, there's some labor issues around that. So you can't guarantee that the school is going to get an amazing officer, uh, from my understanding in the past. And so I'm just, I'm eager to kind of ask those questions when at the forum, right? Because in my opinion, most certainly if the community can have some input, and we most certainly have officers that want to be there and actually love young people, especially young people of color, then yeah, it'd be great to have that. But if we have officers that are just arbitrarily assigned there, uh, have no interest in mentoring and pouring into young people, then perhaps we don't need officers there. Um, the other piece is, personally, I think that, and this is what I'm going to talk about at the forum on Thursday at Garfield High School at 6 p.m. again, everybody is welcome. Come on down. One of the things I'm going to talk about, and I know that in the past there's been some labor issues around this, is how can we get community input on the officers that are in the school, right? I mean, I think so. Anecdotally, of course, that's why they call me anecdotal. We know that there's always anecdotal feedback. You know, this kid, this young person, the student has said this about the officer, good or bad. This teacher or faculty member has said this about an officer, good or bad, right? But there's really no community way to have accountability now, and that's a big difference between true job accountability. Like I'm not necessarily advocating for the community to be in a position to hire and fire officers without any type of due process, but I do think the community and those that are actually on site, like current students and current parents and current faculty and staff, should be able to give some type of organized feedback when we talk about officers in schools, right? And then that feedback, good or bad, should inform the police department's ability to, continue to have that officer at that school, right? And then, of course, I'm not a fan of the utilizing national studies that were based upon data that came out of, Stanford or Miami or whatever, to speak to how we do things in Seattle public schools. So regardless of where you're at on this issue, most certainly we want to hear from you and have a lively and engaging community forum this Thursday, July 17th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at Garfield High School Commons. And again, this event is powered by the Medium newspaper and 100 Black Parents. I'm excited about seeing the chief. I mentioned the chief in the last segment. If you're just joining us, Seattle officially has a new chief. His name is Chief Sean F. Barnes, and he was officially sworn in last Wednesday on the 9th. So very exciting. We're hoping to have a reset and yeah, just a reset and begin to change or turn the culture shift. One of the things that Chief Barnes has talked about is having a greater level of engagement with community. And honestly, this is off to a great start. This is a highly contentious subject here in Seattle. We know that there's many parents in the community that do not endorse or have want officers in schools. And then you have many parents, in fact, the parents of students who have been murdered on campus that, of course, do want to see police officers on campus. And so where do we fall in? How do we achieve this balance of safety in schools when we know that there's so many guns in the hands of young people in Seattle? So that's again this Thursday from 6 to 8 at Garfield High School. So yeah, that's it for this segment. I want to remind everybody that you're listening to the Mother's Justice Show here on KKNW 1150. If you're not following us on socials, please do so. We're at MFPA SEA on X and Instagram, and then on Facebook, we're under Mothers for Police Accountability. So give us a follow, tap in with us. We're always looking for volunteers and others to get involved. And looking forward to talking with Gina Hall right after the break. We'll be right back. Thanks.
Market Street Shoes is happy to sponsor the Mother's Justice Show in honor of our mother, Jackie Higgins Rosebrook, who spent her life fighting for social justice, and also in honor of all mothers who fight for social justice. Market Street Shoes, fashionable footwear and apparel for life's everyday adventures, in the heart of Ballard since 2006. Visit marketstreetshoes.com.
The Mother's Justice Show is brought to you by H.G. Walden and the Virtues Healing Circles. Join us for Wisdom and Wellness with Reverend Walden, a monthly virtual and in-person healing circle that focuses on community healing and growth. Learn more at virtueshealing.com. That's virtueshealing.com. Also, be sure to join our healing group on Facebook. Again, visit us at virtueshealing.com today.
Okay. Hello. Hey, welcome to the bottom of the hour here. My name is Chukundi Salisbury Sr., and you're listening to the Mother's Justice Show here on 1150 AM KKNW. I am filling in for the Reverend Harriet Walden today, who has tasked me with hosting some shows, and I have gleefully agreed to help carry the mantle forward around police accountability and community engagement and public safety. And when we talk about accountability, we're talking about accountability on all levels for all involved. We most certainly want to hold our partners in community safety, police departments accountable, but we also want to talk about community accountability. And to that end, while we've got an amazing guest today, somebody that I've seen do great work in this community and her journey, and is the currently steering the ship over at Uplift Northwest, I want to welcome Gina Hall. Hey, Gina.
Hey, Chukundi. Thank you so much for initiating this conversation, and thank you for your work in our community for decades. Chukundi and I go back at least, I want to say 15 plus years. I've seen the great work that you and your family has done in the Seattle area. And I've always admired you from afar and up and close. So thank you for this conversation today. I look forward to continuing the dialogue that we started a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, excellent. That's good. So before we get into the kind of a recap of the public safety forum that you hosted down at the Edgewater, why don't we tell our guests a little bit about Uplift Northwest? I'm sure that many folks from Seattle proper most certainly remember the organization when it had its old name. But why don't you tell us a little bit about Uplift and the work that you're doing and how we got to your to this new name now and what it was called before?
Excellent. Thank you, Chukundi. So yes, I joined Uplift Northwest about 5 years ago. And many of you may remember the Millionaire Club charity. And we're actually a 103-year-old legacy nonprofit in the Puget Sound region. Not too many nonprofits can pride themselves on being around for 100 years. So I'm honored to be kind of at the helm during this season in the history of Uplift Northwest. I joined in the middle of COVID. I was at Seattle Goodwill for over a decade and decided to kind of check out what some other nonprofits were doing and utilize not only my career, but essentially my life history and journey brought me to now Uplift Northwest. And our vision is that essentially every individual in the Puget Sound region should have access to basic human needs, stable employment, and affordable housing. And, I've always had a passion for people. I always look for the underdog because I feel like those are the folks that are typically overlooked, underserved, underrepresented, but some of our best talent, our best success stories start in those humble beginnings. And so to serve the mission of Uplift Northwest during this season of growth and impact and and transformational change is an honor and a privilege that I don't take lightly.
Wow. I had no idea that the Millionaires Club and now Uplift Northwest was that old and established of a nonprofit. I think that many folks in the community know Uplift as a provider of labor, if you will. But I know that you guys have been focused a lot on job skills and actually getting people into permanent employment, right? It's much more than just kind of day laborers and hanging out in front of the building. Can you speak a little bit about some of your programs that you guys have been having around getting people into full employment?
Thank you for mentioning that, Chukundi. So after COVID, we encountered a 55% increase in the number of folks showing up for quote unquote day labor on Monday and wanting a job by Friday. That our old model was in 4 days we can get folks to work. And we actually were following that model for about 90 plus years. Right. Frankly, we were not able to keep up with the pace. So the number of folks that were showing up and wanting to work, we did not have the jobs available for every single person. And some of it was really what type of job, right? Just because you're living in poverty, homeless, doesn't mean you have to take whatever is available. So we believe in treating people with dignity and respect and providing the support for the whole person. We have a hygiene center on site. We have a meals program. We have an eye clinic. We have case management, et cetera. And so what we did last summer was we actually paused our intakes for 3 months, and we completely stopped taking day labor. And I sent my team to Chicago to look at some other employment social enterprises, and also to California to a conference put on by RETA, who convenes over 200 employment social enterprises throughout this country. And then my team came back. We hunkered down for 3 months. I had some consultants come in to provide some professional development. And we relaunched what we call RISE in November. RISE stands for Roadmap to Independent and Sustained Employment. And instead of getting people through our program in 4 days, we now hold on to them for 4 weeks. And so we are doing now a cohort model where we open up for applications for 2 weeks. We only have space for 30. We're seeing upwards 150 plus folks that are applying for our jobs program. And then we do an orientation, and then we hold on to them for 4 weeks. And each participant in our RISE program is assigned a case management. They're provided wraparound support services, which includes housing case management as well, behavioral case management. And what we're seeing now is prior to RISE, we saw 20% of our folks that came in actually moved on to long-term work. And now the last cohort, it's about 50% of our folks are moving on to long-term work. So we're already seeing the performance is better. Our employers are more satisfied. Our QC, we call them quality control calls, have decreased exponentially since RISE launched in November. And so we will continue to refine and redesign this new cohort model, and we're very proud about it.
Wow, yeah, that's excellent. One of the things that comes to mind when you mention wraparound services, I know that there's oftentimes folks that are in cohorts that have been have had impacts with law enforcement adjudication. We have folks that are just coming home and with their records and the like. So are you guys doing a lot of work around that and helping to expunge records or work with folks who have been adjudicated? I know one of the things we've done in some of our work is reminding folks that they do have the right to vote and all of those things. Do you find yourself, and I guess the other thing that comes to mind as you're putting people in employment and you have folks in your programs that have been adjudicated, are you finding those barriers are coming down, or are they still up? in barriers into hiring folks who have recently come home or have had a brush with the law?
So I will answer that question in two ways. Yes and yes. As long as you have human beings, there's going to be barriers. There's just people out there that just, they're just wrong. And then I'll speak on behalf of Uplift Northwest. We've got 90% of the folks we serve are justice impacted. And so
Right, okay.
most every single person that we encounter is going to have some involvement with the law. And so one of the ways in which we turn that story around is, the first encounter is the application process, meeting with case management and our behavioral case managers, and learning how to speak about leading with, not with their deficits, but leading with what they learned from the deficit. We also have a partnership with the city attorney's office, their diversion program. And so folks who have low-level crimes, non-assault, not crimes against people, are referred to Uplift Northwest. And if they go through our program, they only have to do 2 weeks of RISE. Then their records are expunged, and like they've never done that. And so we're proud of that program. But the other piece is we meet with our employer partners. There's too many companies and corporations out there who are gatekeepers, and who has not made a mistake? And think about folks who've made a mistake and didn't get caught, right? Hello.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah.
So what we do is we meet with our employer partners and we say, hey, will you consider hiring our re-entry employees who have graduated from this program? They've already committed to this, to trying to get their life back on track, and give our folks a chance. And so how our value add is a temp to hire model. And so try us out. If they're still our employees, they can still be on our payroll while you get used to them. They can prove themselves. We still provide support services, the case management. If you like them, you hire them. We don't charge the employers for that. And so, yeah, we've got that.
That's excellent. That's excellent. You know what, one of the things that comes to mind when you say that, I remember one time I was in a barbershop. It was kind of like a little secret list of these companies that hire those that are justice impacted, but they don't really want everybody to know that they do that. Do you find that sometimes are there employers out there that most certainly are willing to hire justice impacted folks, but they want to kind of be quiet about it? Is that true?
That is true. We call them felony friendly employers, and we're okay with not publicizing that list. Hey, and you know what? That's the employee's story to tell, not ours. And also that's the employer's story to tell. And so there's a time and a place to kind of divulge that. Yes, there are employees.
Well, that's really good. So listen, obviously you're doing a lot of work around justice impacted folks at your organization. And we had this public safety piece that we had a couple of weeks ago. After the break, when we come back, we'll talk about that and your some of the outcomes that you had. Again, you're listening to the Mother's Justice Show here on 1150 AM KKNW. And our guest today is Gina Hall from Uplift Northwest. We'll be right back.
Market Street Shoes is happy to sponsor the Mother's Justice Show in honor of our mother, Jackie Higgins Rosebrook, who spent her life fighting for social justice, and also in honor of all mothers who fight for social justice. Market Street Shoes, fashionable footwear and apparel for life's everyday adventures, in the heart of Ballard since 2006. Visit marketstreetshoes.com.
The Mother's Justice Show is brought to you by H.G. Walden and the Virtues Healing Circles. Join us for Wisdom and Wellness with Reverend Walden, a monthly virtual and in-person healing circle that focuses on community healing and growth. Learn more at virtueshealing.com. That's virtueshealing.com. Also, be sure to join our healing group on Facebook. Again, visit us at virtueshealing.com today.
All right, welcome back to the final segment here on today's Mother's Justice Show here on 1150 AM KKNW. My name is Chukundi Salisbury Sr., and I am filling in for the Reverend Harriet Walden here on the Mother's Justice Show, powered by Mothers for Police Accountability. And our guest today is Gina Hall of Uplift Northwest. Uplift Northwest is a job training and nonprofit located in the Belltown area. It is over 100 years old and is formerly known as the Millionaires Club. And so recently, I took part in a public safety forum that was put on by Uplift Northwest and Gina. And yeah, it was a lot of interesting people there and lots of great comments. So, Gina, can you tell us a little bit about that event and why you even put it together?
Thank you, Chukundi. The reason I put it together, really, it's something, a passion that I have, and that is we're better together. And since Uplift Northwest, formerly the Millionaire Club charity, has been around for over 100 years, we have supporters on both sides of the aisle. And so I have some very interesting conversations with folks on a daily basis. And so I'm learning that it's not about pointing fingers. It's about what can you do? And so the impetus for the public safety forum at the Edgewater a couple of weeks ago was really to have an intimate venue where we purposely curated the guest list that had not only diversity in socioeconomic, but diversity in points of views and politics and just all types of, even the panel was, I would have to say, diverse. And so that was the impetus. But here's the thing, there's crime happening in downtown Seattle. Belltown, if you Google it, where the most dangerous neighborhood in the city is what they're saying. And downtown is in the beginning of a revitalization. And then citywide, we hear the news every night. There's just stuff happening. Humans are reacting to whatever's going on in the climate right now. And so we thought, hey, let's come together with a common goal. We all want our communities to be safe, right?
Right.
So that was the impetus.
Wow. So, I not to name drop, but why don't you tell us a little bit tell us who was on that panel. Obviously, I was there and I can tell us who they're there, but I'd like for you to tell us who you had on the panel that day.
Okay. So we invited, oh gosh,
I know we had the guy the Ivers chair.
Yeah, yes.
He was there, and
yes, we had Karen Lee, with the CEO of Pioneer Human Services. We had Assistant Chief Daniel Sullivan. We had my Chief Mission Officer Max. We had Chukundi. We had Jim. Oh gosh, he's going to be very upset that I'm going to join him. Bob Donegan. Bob Donegan. Sorry, yeah. Bob Donegan. Bob, forgive me. I know who you are, and I love you dearly. We have Bob Donovan, who's the CEO of Ivers and Kid Valley, and then it was moderated by Mark Wright, former newscaster for this local news person who now has his own radio show.
Right. Shout out to the Deputy Chief Ben. He actually was one of the officers back in the day who worked with Reverend Walden and mothers and others in the community for the crisis response team. And to see somebody like him at the assistant chief level is exciting because crisis intervention is something that's needed more than ever right now. So shout out to him. I thought it was a really good event, and it was I think the mix, if you will, because we have so many opinions, and it's good to get people in the room to off the keyboard and to really say, okay, this is what's really going on. And so one of the takeaways, and I know I asked you about it, but one of my takeaways, because I was actually on the panel, is it's always good to be in the room and hear the some of the facts, because SPD talked about how statistically many areas of crime are in fact down in Seattle proper. However, on the flip side, we also had people like Dave Miner in the room. Shout out to Dave. He's a perennial business owner with many staff people in Belltown and beyond. He talked about the onslaught, right? The daily onslaught of working in that community and some of the public safety challenges to him and his staff. So it's always good to kind of hear, all elements, but actually be in the same room and not just kind of going back and forth on X.
Yes, I think it's different when you're face to face, and we purposely had an intimate setting. The capacity was 40 and we were jam-packed and full.
Yeah,
Everyone, and one of the things about conversation, which I don't see a lot now, is listening. And what I appreciated from that event is we were able to hear everyone's perspective. The room was quiet for everyone. And I loved you, Chukundi, when you talked about Black home ownership, and there, you could have heard a pin drop, because people don't speak about that very often in the public forum face to face. So it was some great conversation. I was inspired and encouraged. We talked about next steps, and I felt like I feel like we can keep the momentum moving forward.
yeah, most certainly. Do you actually plan on doing something else, a follow up for that, or how can people, I guess, what's your next steps around that in public safety as it relates to Uplift and those community partners?
Well, we don't want to be on an island by ourselves. I know the new chief of police is doing his, tour around the city. And so I have been in some conversations with some key leaders to determine what is the best next steps. And so, yes, there will be, but in the interim, we as citizens, we are the next step. And so we have to be not only be willing to have hard, courageous conversations, but then we have to be able to put those conversations to action. And so a lot of times people like to talk about things they can't change. We all have access to emails, phone calls. Call your elected officials. I didn't realize until I got into community work that you can actually make an appointment with your city council, find out who your district person is, and make an appointment, have conversations with them. If you're part of an association, if you're
Right.
not, get a group of people and say, hey, we want you to come speak to us about this issue. They will come. We have more power than we realize. And so use your influence to have conversations with folks who are making decisions that impact us every day.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. I think that you're uniquely situated, right? Of course, the topic of this show is police accountability and community accountability, but I think that you and Uplift Northwest are uniquely situated to give constructive, useful feedback to those working on public safety, especially Seattle Police Department. Because as you mentioned, you said 90% of your cohorts are justice impacted, but these are clearly people that are moving on and upward in life. And so I think that there's a lot of value in their constructive feedback to SPD. And I say that because, as you know, when we used to do the Youth Green Corps at Goodwill, we had some of the same types of issues where we had a lot of young people that were justice impacted. And I just remember this is back when Chief O'Toole was the chief, and she was so interested. She invited the entire Youth Green Corps down for pizza because she wanted to hear from them about, okay, well, she even got down to what officers are officers that are treating people, young people, with respect, and which officers have had some challenges, right? Like she wanted like legitimate feedback. And I think that with your cohorts, yeah, you're in a great space to be able to give that feedback around police accountability.
I love that story, Chukundi. Thank you for sharing it. I also want to share another statistic. Data has shown that the number one cause for folks leading to homelessness is job loss. Sure, it's complicated, and there's other issues that are compounded with that, but job loss is what precipitates homelessness. The other statistic is the number one reason that folks come to Uplift Northwest, they want a job. 60%
Right.
of folks that come to us are experiencing homelessness. People want income generation. We change their paradigm from survival jobs to a living wage career path. And so not everyone is going to be ready for jobs. Maybe it's micro businesses, maybe it's entrepreneurship, whatever it is. Economic mobility is what is going to help folks move to the next level. And that's what we are all about at Uplift Northwest.
Well, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. Obviously, folks, please look up Uplift Northwest and follow and support their work. We encourage everybody here to also follow us, MFPASEA on Instagram and X, and then, of course, on Facebook. It's Mothers for Police Accountability. We want to thank Gina Hall for coming on today and giving us your time. We'll be looking for great things from you as you continue to convene community and make the impact there at Uplift. And man, we'll see everybody next week. Thank you for listening to the Mother's Justice Show here on KKNW 1150 AM.